Hi everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. So we're here today with the catch-up episode of Short Story Scraps for February, where we cover Edith Holden's Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. So these will be coming out on a monthly basis normally, but I had only started this in March, so I had a couple of catch-ups to do. So this is February, where we jump in on page 12 of the Edwardian Lady to her absolutely beautiful birds, and then she begins talking a little bit about February, the lore and the myth of February, that poetry and things relating to verse for February. So let's jump in. This month derives its name from the word februar, to purify, or from februa, the Roman festival of expiation, which was celebrated through the latter part of this month. In ordinary years, there are 28 days in February, but in leap year, 29. I love the concept of a leap year. I have a friend who was born on the 29th of February in a leap year, so it's always really funny when she has a birthday, because we're coming around to like, when do we celebrate your birthday? Feast days, etc. February the 2nd is Candlemas Day. February 14th is St. Valentine's Day. February 24th, St. Matthias. And then she's just got this lovely banner that she's illustrated with a bunch of little verses. February, fill dyke, be it black or be it white. All the months of the year curse a fair February. If Candlemas Day be fair and bright, winter will have another flight. But if Candlemas Day be clouds and rain, winter is gone and will not come again. I absolutely love that Candlemas verse. If February bring no rain, 'tis neither good for grass nor grain. In February, if thou hearest thunder, thou shalt see a summer wonder. So all of those lovely weather prediction verses, so fun. And then she gets into a verse by Hartley Coleridge, February the 1st, 1842. And she's drawn, and she's referring to the fair maids of February. She's illustrated some beautiful snowdrops. One month is past, another is begun, since merry bells rang out the dying year, and buds of rarest green began to peer, as if impatient for a warmer sun. And though the distant hills are bleak and dun, the virgin snowdrop, like a lambent fire, pierces the cold earth with its green streaked spire, and in dark woods the wandering little one may find a primrose. Snowdrops are some of my favorite flowers. I think they're so full of hope, right? Like as soon as that snow is melted and there's pops of grass coming through, you start to see those snowdrops, and it's like, oh, spring is coming. So then we move on to February's journaling. So she begins by talking about the first day of February, dull day with slight drizzle of rain in the morning, but bright and mild in the afternoon. The second is Candlemas Day, wild and stormy. The third, it says in today's Chronicle that at Dover, a blackbird's nest with 2 eggs has been found. At Edenbridge, a hedge sparrow's with 4 eggs, and at Elmstead, a robin's with 5 eggs. So I think the Chronicle was a newspaper, probably local to where she was living. Imagine, reading in the newspaper or any local publication, maybe, like those tabletop things that you find in cafes, like the Cafe News or something, hearing about the bird's nests that were found in your town. Like, that's so quaint. How do I transport myself to a little English village where that's a reality, please? Because that's the life I'm ready for. That's my speed now. The 7th, picked some dog's mercury in flower. This is the first to blossom of all the wild herbaceous plants, daisies and groundsel excepted. The 8th, there was a thunderstorm today, with showers of rain, hail, and sleet. The 9th, snowstorm in the night. This morning we looked out on a white landscape. This is the first deep snow we have had this winter. I swept a space free on the lawn and strewed it with bread and rice. Crowds of birds came. I counted 8 tits at one time on the coconut and the tripod of sticks supporting it. One tiny blue cap took possession of the coconut, sitting down in the middle of it and bidding defiance to all the others. It was very funny to see him squatting in the shell, sparring and hissing at a great tit who came at him with open wings and beak. There was a partial eclipse of the moon visible this morning at 5:57 a.m. At 8 o'clock in the evening, there was a beautiful rainbow-colored halo round the moon, usually bright and distinct. Unusually, I apologize. The 10th, rain and wind from the southwest, rapid thaw. The 12th, I visited Violet Wood again today. The lords and ladies are quite up above the ground now, and the violet roots are sending up little trumpets of new leaves. The ground in the wood is covered with tiny seedlings of the muscatel. I gathered some gorse blossom on my way home. The elm trees are just breaking into blossom, and the willows are showing their downy white catkins, very small as yet. The 13th, snowing all day. The 14th, St. Valentine's Day, sharp frost and bright sunshine. And on the opposite page, she has beautifully illustrated unfolding leaves of wild arum or cuckoo pint, arum maculatum, willow catkins, and dog's mercury, Mercurialis perennis. And then on the next page, she has a beautiful verse from E.B. Browning with a lovely illustration of common gorse or whin, Ulex europaeus. Mountain gorses ever golden, cankered not the whole year long. Do ye teach us to be strong, howsoever pricked and holden, like your thorny blooms, and so, trodden on by rain and snow, up the hillside of this life as bleak as where ye grow. Mountain blossoms, shining blossoms, do ye teach us to be glad when no summer can be had, blooming in our inward bosoms, yet whom God perceiveth still, set as lights upon a hill, tokens to the wintry earth that beauty liveth still. Mountain gorses, do ye teach us, from that academic chair, canopied with azure air, that the wisest word man reaches is the humblest he can speak? Ye who live on mountain peak, yet live low along the ground, beside the grasses meek. Mountain gorses, since Linnaeus knelt beside you on the sod, for your beauty thanking God, for your teaching you should see us, bowing in prostration new. Whence arisen, if one or two, drops be on our cheeks, O world, they are not tears but dew. Then she moves back into her journaling for February, starting up again with the 15th. Walking home from Solihull this afternoon, I noticed a number of gnats dancing in the bright sunshine, and I saw 2 little shrew mice in different places on the bank, who darted quickly into their holes directly when they saw me. So one thing I like about how she writes, and just generally speaking, her personality, is, she's talking about something as, small as gnats, which most people I think would consider annoying. She talks about them dancing in the bright sunshine. And that is a beautiful thing, to take a walk on an early quiet morning and, the sun's kind of shining through trees so you can see all those special things like spiders' webs with dew in them and little bugs, fluttering around. I think it speaks to just kind of the genteelness of her spirit. And I think that's what really draws me to these texts. I think she's just a gentle spirit. The 16th, heard the lark singing for the first time this year. The 24th, cycled to Packwood through Solihull and Bentley Heath. I passed a rookery on the way. The rooks were all very busy building up their old nests, and a great deal of chatter they made over it. I saw a little robin gathering materials for its nest at one place on the bank, and further on, a thrush with a beakful of long straws. Everywhere the branches of the willow bushes were tipped with downy white balls, and the elder catkins were showing very red. In the garden of Packwood Hall, adjoining the churchyard, the borders were full of large clumps of single snowdrops. I brought away a great bunch. The farmer living there, born that morning, I held it in my arms, and it seemed quite fearless, poking its little black head up into my face. You know what I think I skipped a little bit of that sentence. Please let me begin again. The farmer living there brought out a little lamb to show me, one of a family of 3 born that morning. I held it in my arms, and it seemed quite fearless, poking its little black head up into my face. I rode home 7 miles in a storm of sleet and snow. Does that ever happen to you where you just somehow skip a whole line of text? And then you're like, wait a minute, that didn't make sense. Sorry about that. The 27th, Shrove Tuesday. The 28th, Ash Wednesday. We have had more winter weather this February than any other month this winter. The Erd shrew, or shrew mouse, inhabits subterranean tunnels, which it excavates in the soil. It feeds upon insects and worms, and its long, flexible nose is a great aid to it in its search after food. The shrew is very impatient of hunger and cannot endure a protracted fast. It is suggested that the many dead shrews, which are found in the autumn on the country roads and footpaths, owe their deaths to starvation, the worms having descended too deeply into the ground for them to follow, and the insects having concealed themselves in their winter hiding places. The reason that their dead bodies are not carried off for food by weasels, owls, etc., probably exists in the strong odor which exhales from the shrew. In country districts, a superstitious fear and hatred was formerly entertained against this pretty and harmless little animal. So she has illustrated here an Erd shrew, or shrew mouse. And, it's interesting when you think about how nature typically works. Like, there's usually a way that animals, even in winter, can get food. Like, there's typically some adaptation that they have, right? But I think that the culling of populations is also part of nature's plan, because we do see that phenomenon in lots of different animal species, where like only so many can survive the, where they live, like the actual geography or circumstances, right? So it's interesting, but it's also interesting that like they aren't taken away or eaten because of their smell. Like, you think, how would that differ from any other dead animal? But maybe it's like what a skunk must smell like, right? Maybe animals don't eat skunks either. I don't know. So then we move on to a verse from Robert Burns. It's a lovely verse called To a Mouse. We sleeket crown, titmouse beastie, oh, what a panic's thy beastie. Thou need you start away, say hasty, why bickering brattle. I would be loath to rin and chase thee wi' murdering paddle. I have to mention that this is hard to read because it's in Robert Burns speak, and if you're unfamiliar, he often would write in this way. I liken it to reading like Gaelic Irish literature. It's a little bit different, so let me continue. I doubt no whiles, but thou may thieve. What then, poor beastie, thou maun live. A daemon icker is a trave, it's a small request. I'll get a blessin' with the love and never miss it. Thou saw the fields laid bare and waste, and weary winter coming fast, and cozy here beneath the blast thou thought to dwell, till crash the cruel coulter past out throw thy cell. But mousie, thou art know thy lane, improving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes o' mice and men gang aft agly, and lay us naught but grief and pain for promised joy. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union, and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle at me, thy poor earth-born companion and fellow mortal. Thy wee bit housie too in ruin, it's silly was the winds are strewin', and naething new to a big and now a big a new one on Foggage Green. A bleak December's winds ensuing, baith snelling keen. That wee bit heap o' leaves and stibble has cost thee many a weary nibble. Now thou'st turned out for a' thy trouble, but house or hold to hold the winter's sleety dribble, and crammage could. Still thou art blessed compared with me, the present only toucheth thee, but och, I backward cost my e on prospects drear, and forward though I cannot see, I guess and fear. Whew, we made it. That was a tough verse to read. Yeah. Anyways, we move on to the next page, where she's beautifully illustrated catkins of aspen, Populus tremula, purple willow, Salix purpurus, goat willow or round leaved sallow, Salix caprea, and alder, Alnus glutinosa. And just very beautiful, subtle colors that she has captured in the shadows of these catkins and these willows. Just pinks and purples, little hues of shadows. So that, in fact, does conclude February. So we are caught up. In the month of March, I will bring March to you as well. And then in the other short story scraps that we do will be from other texts, fun things. So I hope you enjoyed this little Twitter of the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. A little bit of tough verse there, so I do apologize for that. Again, my point in wanting to bring this text is like, we all love this book. We love the illustrations and the handwriting. And I just want to read through it so that there's kind of like a place to kind of understand her a little more, know that her illustrations were coming from a certain place that was based on these experiences that she was having. I always like to collect catkins and pussy willows and things kind of like she has, and she's illustrating them. For those of you interested in doing eco-printing, just so you are aware, catkins, especially that of the birch, they will print beautifully. They have a lot of tannin that settles in the catkin, so you can get really nice prints on fabric, especially cotton that's been mordant with some rust. You can get beautiful prints there. So thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.